host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting update. So in this video, this is another episode in a series of videos called Catching a Speeding Bullet. In these videos, I'm catching up with Superman. I used to read Superman quite often back in the New 52 era. Then when Rebirth came out, I dug into Superman a little bit. But after a while, due to college and other responsibilities, I kind of fell off of comic books for a little bit. And I would still check in from time to time reading comics, but when it came to Superman comics in particular, I fell off pretty hard. So what I'm doing is I'm reading the newest issues of Superman and all his series in order to figure out where he is, and then doing a video where I talk about each issue that I read to catch you up to speed without you having to read it. And of course, in the comment section below, after this video has been, not the comment section, the description below, after this video has been updated, I'll throw in a link to the issue so that you can read it online for free if you so choose to do so. In this episode, we're going to talk about Action Comics number 1000. So, Action Comics number 1000 is the 1000th issue of Action Comics, and it's a celebration of Superman and who he is. Don't expect one really big story, but rather multiple small stories that either cover interesting points in Superman's history or act simply as a celebration of Superman and some of his supporting villains for the most part. Um, there are a lot of Superman stories in here. Some of my favorites are there's one where Superman has lived for like billions of years, and now the sun is going to engulf the Earth, but no one's on Earth anymore. But Superman essentially has decided that he's just gonna die now. Like, I was very surprised by where that story was going, because essentially what happens is Superman goes to Earth as the sun is expanding and like consuming the planet. He creates a memorial for like Ma and Pa Kent, and the sun at this point is like a red giant, and he lets the red giant expand and just engulf him and the planet. And he talks about how like his family has like grown, and how there's this eternity formula that you can drink, and it just lets you like live forever kind of thing. So like Lois is still alive and John's still alive, um, but it's like Superman just kind of is like, I'm done, and he just like lets the like planet eat him. And I was like, whoa, that's I didn't expect to see that in this book. That was pretty good. Um, Another story that I really liked out of this book was there's one where Vandal Savage, who's like an immortal tyrant, he's a supervillain. He traps Superman in hyper time, and hyper time is essentially the name for anything that's happened in DC Comics in the past but is no longer a part of continuity, or anything that happens in DC Comics and it's like an alternate graphic novel kind of thing. Hyper time's a little confusing, mainly because of the fact that DC has a multiverse where some of their graphic novel stories that are like non-continuity happen on like specific worlds, like Kingdom Come happens on Earth, no 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 no. But he goes into hyper time, and Vandal Savage essentially says, I'm gonna like kill your whole family. The way that I've set up the hyper time thing, you'll never come back to this timeline. You'll just randomly jump through all the other timelines, but you like live out your experiences in those worlds. And essentially, what they're doing with this story is they're having Superman live through all his like non-canon adventures. You get to see like the death and return of Superman from back in like the 90s, where he like lives through it. You get to see him live through like Kingdom Come, which is confusing, uh, simply because of like how hyper time works. But you get to see a lot of really interesting, iconic moments with Superman. Even Superman reliving like his 1930s like first appearance kind of actions. You get to see him like live through that, and he talks about how like it feels so familiar, like I've been here before, but that's impossible, kind of thing. Like doing a little nudge at Superman's history. This is what I expected to see in this book. Unlike the first story that I bragged about, where I was like, I didn't expect to see that at all. This is the kind of thing that I thought like the whole book would be. It would just be like, let's just celebrate Superman's history by making Superman go through his own history. But they took it up a notch by making it not just Superman goes through his own history, but Superman goes through like all these alternate histories that he's had. So it's like a true celebration of Superman throughout his whole 80 years in comics, and I really like that. They even have, only for a short bit, it's not like the whole story or anything, a part where he fights against some of his alternate selves in hypertime. And then the way that he beats Vandal Savage is that with the assistance of different versions of himself in hypertime, they all escape together and they beat up Vandal Savage. I thought that was a cool twist. Like, that was an interesting idea. And that's what I used as the thumbnail for this video. But that story ends with it being like Superman's birthday, and he comes home to his family. And that's just really nice. That's a great way to end that. But there are definitely a lot of good stories in this book. I wouldn't say that all of them were the best. Not saying that any of them are bad, but just it's not like story after story after story blew me away or anything. It's just it's a good book. Like, it's worth picking up. But it's not like, wow, I gotta read that again kind of thing. Another standout story from this issue that I want to talk about would be The Car. I thought was a really good story. For one, a lot of these stories are done by different artists and they have dramatically different styles. But The Car's style change is so drastic compared to a lot of the other like minor tweaks between artists that it caught my attention immediately. I honestly had thought for a second that I was reading like a different book. But The Car takes place after the events of the first Superman story in Action Comics #1. If you've ever looked at like the cover of Action Comics, Superman's like picking up this like car. I'm currently looking up the image of the car now. Oh, I typed in #1 and it like auto-filled 1,000. Yeah, so the car that he like picks up and he like smashes, they have the criminal whose car that he messed up having to be like, oh, I gotta like get my car fixed, and he's trying to tell the guy what happened to his car, and the guy's like, you're drunk, go home, and he's like, I don't have a ride because my car's messed up. Superman comes back to him, and you think Superman's about to arrest the guy, but instead of arresting him, he's like, you've had like a really hard life. I looked into you. Like, I'm not just a guy who's beating people up. I'm like trying to get the full story. And what I've learned is that while you've lived a hard life, you've just been trying to like survive, and I get that. So I'm gonna give you the choice to either throw your life away and junk it or try to fix it. And the last panel shows him, like the man, like opening a fire hydrant so that some kids can like run around in like the summertime, and you can see he's smiling and his car's fixed. So like symbolically, he had the choice to either junk his car or fix it, and in the same way, he had the same choice to either throw his life away and continue his life of crime, or fix it and become like a service to his community. Not a service, but someone who lives to serve his community. And I really like that story. That was really good. Any Superman story where he helps someone and he doesn't have to like punch anything, I really like. But I also like seeing him use his powers. So I'm a big fan of Superman having to stop like a natural disaster, or having to like find a creative solution around a problem that doesn't necessarily have to be like a violent one. I really dig that. And there are definitely a few of those stories in this book, and I really like that. The big takeaway from Action Comics #1000 is the very last story is written by Brian Michael Bendis. He's going to be writing the new Man of Steel book, #1 of which is coming out May 30th, so at the end of this month. And that story introduces a brand new character who claims that Jor-El told him before Krypton was destroyed, hey, I need you to like kill all the Kryptonians. So it's like Superman's father saying, I want genocide, please, and then sending him on his way. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. and that's gonna be like the plot of the Man of Steel book. I don't know how to feel about it. One thing that Bendis did at the beginning of the book that I thought was weird is Superman's wearing the red trunks, and I've never really been against the red trunks for Superman. It's one of those things where I could go either way. It doesn't really matter that much to me because they're trunks. Um, but Bendis has civilians really push, like, oh man, he's wearing the trunks again. He never really was like Superman without the trunks. You know, like the trunks are like what makes Superman Superman. And I just feel like the trunks are not a big enough deal. You know what I mean? And due to the direness of the situation that like those people are in, they were a little too relaxed and too focused on Superman's trunks. I do want to see where that story goes, and I definitely will be reading the Man of Steel #1 when it comes out. Coolest moment from that story? There are two. There are two really cool moments. One, they both have to do with the fight between Superman and the guy who supposedly has killed all the Kryptonians. #1, the guy hits Superman really hard. There's like a clash between Superman using his laser vision and his freeze breath against this criminal who I think like shoots like a blast at him, and the guy's blast overcomes Superman and knocks him away. But in the time that Superman's being knocked away, the villain has enough time to like run around and intercept him and hit him. I thought that was cool. That's always really cool to see, but I feel like they did a good job of it. And then the other one I really liked is the villain knocks him toward a building. It's like a bookstore, and it has like a glass window. And Superman uses his flying ability to slow down his like his velocity toward the glass, and he stops in midair right before the glass like this. And I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. Um, but yeah, Action Comics #1000 has a lot of cool stories in it. Definitely worth picking up. But the main takeaway is the Man of Steel #1 comes out at the end of this month. So if you want to see more cool Superman stories, you gotta read the Man of Steel at the end of May. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like this video, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding, ring that bell to be notified when we do these live streams. And don't worry, I will put the link to this comic in the comment section below. Sorry, in the description below. I know I still haven't done that for the previous Catching a Speeding Bullet video, but that's because after I did that video, I started reading Action Comics #1000, and then I read a Wikipedia article about a Walt Disney ride. Unrelated. I'm just into Disney's new haptic technology. Again, unrelated. But yeah, thank you for watching. Peace.